Okay, good morning. I'm going to just go right into this, and I'm going to go quick, just because I know what your time's like, and this isn't really a teaching thing. This is so you can see how we're using it. I want to start off show right away and show you what we have in there. This is our fleet status report, just to start with the rigs. This is all of our engines and trucks and everything that we have in our fleet. As I want to go in here and look at a brush rigs and see what their status is here, I have them that are active, in service, out of service, and inactive. If I want to go take a look at any one of these trucks, I want to go to the station and I'm going to go to brush 29. And just to kind of give you an idea, that changes my station up here. It takes me to brush 29, and then I can now do more things with it. Right off the get-go, I took you to station 29 because we do have a truck and engine, a station checks, and this is what is due currently. So this is active right now. If I click on this 42 number, it's going to tell me what the engineer still has to do with the truck. It's after 9 o'clock. They haven't done their pre-trip yet. Bad on them. As they go through this, so they would start to do their pre-trip and they would start checking off things as they went along. And they would check everything, and this is showing everything that is due for the day, their brake measurements, their stroke measurements. We have a small daily inventory that we do every day. But for sake of things, this is just the checks that are due for the day on this unit. Over here on the right hand side, it shows you the alerts that have already been posted against this engine. So if I'm working or working overtime that day at that station, this is going to tell me what is currently happening. So pressure engage bulb is burnt out. The bulb is good, it's corroded and not working. So this is still an open alert. It hasn't been resolved, but now I know when I'm checking it and I see that bulb is out, I don't need to report it again. It's a delayed discrepancy and it's still sitting there. As you can see, they've sent out a question. They're asking for items here. This is an equipment check. So if you notice, different types of checks got completed. The dry chem and portable water extinguisher need maintenance. They're overdue. This is our equipment. One of our equipment managers, he's telling them to leave open until received, and they haven't received them yet as of December 3rd. So this is a case where the loop hasn't been closed because probably Phil put them in the mail and they went somewhere else, or somebody picked them off and used it, which I'm sure we're not the only one who deals with. Here is an urgent alert that was set that could place this rig out of service. It was placed only yesterday. So this may end up taking the rig out of service, but if it is just a leak, I don't think they'll set it out as that. But this is just to give you a quick look at a dashboard for a type of a rig. We go over here and you'll see that there, if I go and look at the details closer on this rig, I'll show you how one of these schedules is built out. We made a real concerted effort to name these right at the get-go. We're doing our COVID checks in the morning. We have stuff labeled as daily pre-trip. This daily pre-trip, you can even set who's the alert recipient. So if I were to edit this, set the alert category, I have this as default that these three items, are going to go to our fleet Miramar shop. If I go down further, I'll hide this one. Our daily inventory check is done. Our crews are checking. This is what they need to check that they have every day. It's not a detailed inventory, but that's default is going to the equipment manager, except for one compartment, which goes to our EMS team. That's the daily inventory. Mondays, they have a Monday weekly air pressure check. This will end up going to fleet. They have Saturday weekly ladder check. If something is wrong with one of their ladders, they'll note it, and it'll actually, if you look at this, I can set the default category, and that is going to equipment. We have pump and foam checks every Sunday. Bi-weekly, we have Monday tire tread. On Monday, we remind them to clear their alerts, because this thing is a closed loop, and I'll show you the alerts. We do not let our shop close the loop. I do not let our equipment manager close the loop, because we want the engineers to be checking out the rig in the morning and closing out stuff that, hey, this got fixed yesterday. It's no longer a problem. This avoids the pencil whipping of my equipment manager team. Maybe, hey, we're going to send this. Well, maybe we forget, and it doesn't get there, because this is intended, again, to be a customer service tool for us, and that is our customers, which is the operations staff. have something wrong they need fixed. Our service providers, whether it be facilities or equipment or EMS, don't get to close the loop. The people who are the customers close the loop, say, hey, I sent this, I notified somebody, they resolved it, it's closed, now I'm going to close it. That's what I meant by closed loop. On the 24th of the month, we do detailed checks on our SCBAs. There is a way to do these daily as well. We had some resistance from the local about doing them daily, you know, that, hey, check, do your fit check or your quick fit test and all that stuff in the morning. I won't go into that. But 25th of the month, pump checks, either detailed pump checks. 26th of the month, apparatus lube, red line checks. And you get the idea, auxiliary checks. This is where they're running equipment that they have. Quarterly checks we have are due, and I remind them 30 days in advance via check. Hey, just check to acknowledge you got quarterly checks are due within 30 days. Quarterly, they need to do cleaning and apparatus, and they need to do a full inventory. This is where they're going to go by each compartment and check it off. Now, the way we're doing it is everything up to the monthly level is done on the day it's due. That's the one thing about any type of these electronic programs is you can't really schedule them to be due and say there's this group, although I think they're working on that, that's due ahead. So what we've told people to do is if you're going to do your quarterly inventory, you can do it ahead of time. And the way to do that is do what's called an as-needed check. So we teach our people that at any time, if you need to do an as-needed check on anything, you click down here on the engine and you're going to do as-needed check. You would pull up the inventory, and now you can actually go in and pull up the inventory and start doing the checks early. And once you do them, they will now advance to the next quarter. So there is a way to do that. And we say it's quarterly inventory. We tell them, hey, starting on October 1st, you can now do the quarterly checks for that month. They can do that on anything. So any of those monthly checks, it's not a limit in the program, but we as a policy are telling everybody if it's anything that's monthly or less should be done on the day it's due. Now that brings up another good point, and that is the as needed check. What if you've done your pre-trip for the day, as they already have here? So engine 29, all they have left just by looking at the number is the PM health screenings that we're doing for COVID. They've done their pre-trip, they've done everything done for the day. But in the middle of the day, they get a rock into the windshield or something goes on with the rig. So they can go in here and do an as needed check, and they can pull up the pre-trip for the day. And now they can report windshield, and they can say star from rock. And that means I'm going to do this as a test. Now they go in here, and this is a log in here. I'm going to go in here now. I'm going to go in, and I can change this category, but we have the default set. I can change this to a different fleet location, dispatch if it's a radio issue, you know, for some reason it goes on here, safety if it's a deco check. Obviously this is a windshield, it should be where it is. I can now add in more details while driving, etc. I'm going to put in the miles, the hours. We require these now. We just made this change a week ago. This can be optional. And then this is the alert recipients. We also require them, and this is one of the features we worked with them early on, is to add their captain. So they're going to hit in here, and this one's for you in Fresno. I actually happen to be the son of Pete Nilsen, so he has an account in here. He doesn't know it, but Oni was my uncle as well. Oni Gurney. So this now, if I set this alert, it's going to be set just so I don't create one here for engine 25. I mean for engine 29. I would set this alert that would get emailed out, and then the fleet, the people that are on there at the Fleet Miramar are going to get it, as well as myself because I'm setting it, as well as our current logistics battalion chief, and then you can set whoever that is in these different groups. You do that by going in, well, I won't go into those settings, but that's essentially how you would set an alert. Those alerts, again, at any time I can go check. If I want to take the alerts that are open on engine 29, it definitely looks like we're not doing our job because there's a lot of alerts open. But you can see any one of these things that are an alert. I can go in here and I'll do this just to give you guys an example of an alert. I'm going to do a change a station to my template station, which only I have access to. And then if you notice here, I have an alert that was set there. This was a test, found this widget on the floor. If I at any one time here, can now go here and edit it. Widget is now broken. And I can update any of this stuff. I can decide at this point is now broken. I can actually close it and it would go away. And I can decide whether to send the notification and it'll go out to the people. I'm going to leave this open so you can see how this looks. All right, and then if I go back to home and click on that alert, you see now it is over there. Now if I want to edit it and close it, I'm going to say now fixed, or whatever I would need to. I'm going to close it. I'm going to send a notification, and now if I want, I'm going to add an attachment, and I can go in here at any point and take a picture, and hopefully, hey, look, we'll add PSTrax to it. We add a picture of PSTrax to it, and that way, when you look at it, although it's going to be closed and now it'll go away, you can actually go see that picture. So now you see there's no alerts. Well, now I want to go see the alert history on this engine because I want to know what happened to that and who closed it. So I'm going to go over here down here and look at my alert archive. I'm going to look at this and I'm going to search just to make sure we have a lot of data. And I'm going to look at engine. There we go. I have some retired engines in there. That's why it shows more than I have. So now here's my alert archive. This shows you all the different alerts that have been set on this, and this is showing me anything that's been opened or closed. If I wanted to look at just the status open, if I hit this, there isn't anything open. If I want to just look at the closed, I can look at the closed. Reason this is important is because that's how our fleet is looking at their stuff every day. So they're going in here and they're doing an alert archive. They're changing the station to all. They're the ones that are actually all apparatus, and those who are working at Miramar are going to look at the things that are assigned to them. And now they want to just look at the stuff that's been reported in the last 3 days, and they're going to look at it and they're going to pull up and they're going to see this is everything that's been reported to Fleet Miramar in the last, wow, 3 days. This one here is a great example because that's been fixed and they haven't closed it yet, which they should. So Chris Pallone really should, oh, maybe he has actually, because I'm showing that. We'll go check that in a second because Chris is pretty good. But if I want, here's a picture of what he was showing us that needed to be repaired. And left seatbelt freight. Okay, so they got fixed. If I go look at this and be real curious to see if we're only looking for open ones. Again, I think Chris is one of our stronger, yep, it's not there anymore. So he closed that alert after it was done. But that gives you an example of one of those alerts was placed. So that's the focus on the rigs. There's a lot in there. You can look at, I said, see the full table. They have a couple functions that we don't use, which including transfers of equipment. We found what I have made sure I did is I'm implementing things that made our processes easier versus if we have a process that's easier than taking a paperless, then we left it that way. Now, for those who are on a mechanically inclined or on the mechanic side of things, at any point I can go do a log. So if I want to look at this, I'm going to actually change stations for this. I'm going to go to back to station. I'll go to station 1. At any point, I can go in and take a look at. I see that there's some chats. I'll come back to those in a minute. I'm sure you guys are monitoring that. If I go to station 1, if I want to look at the history of something on a unit, such as, we'll take a look here at engine 1. I want to go and look here. Actually, I'm going to go here, go to logs and reports, and I'm going to do a log. I'm going to look at frontline engine 1. And by the way, nomenclature and naming is a key part of this. Whenever you're building something, if you're going to be, especially if you're a larger department, you're going to want to really spend a lot of time figuring out how you're going to do that. Anyways, I want to go look at the daily pre-trip at the brake measurements for the left front for the last however long. In fact, that rig's not even that old. Now I can look at the brake measurements and have that data that I never had before, because it's all right there. And any one of these things I can now export to a Excel or a PDF, and I can even change what's on here if I want to get rid of who did it, I don't care, or notes or whatever. There's a lot of little customization that they can work on. So anyways, that's kind of, I'm trying to get into what are the power parts of this.
Hey, Chief, I noticed on the very first vehicle you showed us, you had, it looked like some training resources linked to some of the checks.
Yes, yeah. So
would you mind kind of showing what you guys have
yeah, so engine 1 here is still has some checks due. If it has a paperclip to it, you can click on here and it's actually going to tell you what to look for in your brake measurements, for example. So that's a good point. Let me back out of this. I'm going to stop share for a sec just because the full screens thing that I'm doing here is messing me up.
No worries. Sorry, I messed you up.
No, that's okay. So yeah, I'm going to take that back to here. Yeah, so that brings that up. And then, yeah, so any one of these has a paperclip will bring up a PDF document. In fact, if I do it this way, I open it up in a new window and you'll see it that way. So this is where you can put different training things and tell them what they're looking for. It's a good point. We even had a copy of the North American out of service criteria as part of the rigs. But I don't want to spend too much time with the rigs. I do want to show you what we're doing with the stations as well. So the things that we've moved over, and for those of you who might have to leave early, let me know and I'll show you the list of everything we moved in so far. But this is an apparatus schedule for a station. So this is where we will do our underground storage tank monitoring, twice a day COVID cleaning, our SCBA bottles that we're checking every 24th of the month and confirming the cylinders. I'll talk about SCBAs in a little bit. Quarterly checks, quarterly station inspection, same thing with that quarterly inventory. They can do that within the month. This is where they're reporting, you know, a bird ran into our window or our trash cans need replacing. What we did not do in ours is we literally didn't get into the weeds, meaning that I saw one of the samples that PSTrax has and they were telling the firefighters when to weed the yard. We did not do that. We're not telling when to do the dishes and vacuum and all that other stuff. We're doing things that we really need to track for accountability and compliance reasons. So our station checks are stuff that you have to have this log, right? You have to have your bottles accounted for and checked. So we don't do anything that, we didn't get into the weeds literally. You can, but we are doing the stuff that needs to be done for compliance reasons. Station, the way they have it built right now, and I know they're looking at making this change, but I know it's a monumental change, is that a station is treated just like an apparatus in their program. And so you basically, this is considered, when you build it just like you build a rig, but it's not causing any problems whatsoever for us. I think that's it. I wanted to hit on that. Let me go right into PPE. So this is the personal protective right here at the top. I'm an administrator. We are in the middle of an advanced inspection. I'm going to first off talk about my personal stuff though. So this is not me. I don't have 868 things wrong with my rig or with my gear. Actually, if I log out and log in, Pete, And for my Fresno cohort, I would never try to teach my dad how to use something like this. So, all right. If you look here, this is Pete Nilsen's gear. He had nothing to do. He's got one alert that something's wrong with his rig, and it's just a test. But if I go back and I have Pete Nilsen's structure gear needs to be repaired, you go in here, you can go in here and do that, and I'm going to click it. I'm going to log the selected gear to say needs replacing, very old. So, and then that's just going to, and I'm going to click here, send alert. I'm going to add a attachment, take a picture if I need to. I'm going to log this event, and then it's going to go to the PP email group. And then again, I would add my battalion chief or captain. If especially with our policy, if it's something missing, you need to get approval, or you need to justify how it went missing. So I set that alert, and that's how I report something to the equipment office that something's wrong with my PPE. It's done just like that. And now they get on the email, and they'll look at the alerts and they'll see it. And now you see I have 2 alerts on here. The one thing that it's different from vehicle to PPE is that the end user cannot close the PPE because of the compliance reasons. I can't go in here now and close this as a user. So if I log off and come back in as myself, sometimes I try to test their system with speed, as you can tell. Each rollout they've had, Nathan, all right, go test it. All right, so now you'll see, here's the alerts. You'll see Pete Nilsen said very old. I am going to replace this as, I'm going to say edit, replaced, and I'm going to close it. And I'm going to choose not to send a notification, so I'm just not hitting those people up with those emails. That will now go away, and those alerts are now done. If you can tell, we have a lot of alerts right now. That's because we started with over 40,000 advanced inspections on November 1st. And so right now, we're doing advanced inspections. Each battalion chief is going out and doing these. If they're going out and they're looking for people, and I set his up for this, they're going in and they're doing their advanced inspections on these people right now. So they're going in, they're doing a traffic vest, they're asking the question, is this one present and operational? They're going to hit yes, and then it's done. That inspection is done on their traffic vest. We do our detailed mass checks in the different methods. So is it present? Is all this stuff good? You can do whatever you need to, check for damage, et cetera, et cetera. It's all good. I can hit a check all. You can make this capable or not. I'm going to do this advanced inspection. I'm going to log it. It'll go away. Structure jacket's a great another example. So his will continue to come up, and I'm going to come up. This is a structure coat. This is obviously has a more detailed inspection. This is where you're looking for reflective fabric. All of this type of stuff you can check, and without going into details of it, again, I check this off. But if I didn't, and I found something wrong, this is where I can identify it. This is actually not the place for that. Do for advanced. Typing's off. And then if I set this event, it'll now set this alert, and I'm not going to do that just because, again, I don't want to hit my people up with stuff they're already inundated, as you can tell. I canceled that alert. That check, though, is now done. So even though I didn't set that alert, because I went through the process and did the checks, now it won't show up, or shouldn't show up. A lot of these are very simple. You know, the hood, those go pretty quick. We have things like wire cutters. Do you have them or not? If you lost them, how did you lose them? Are you going through a pair of wire cutters every year because you're an electrician? That kind of thing. So now we can start tracking that kind of stuff. But that's what we're in the middle of right now, is we're doing our first advanced inspection via PSTrax. Again, it started with 40-some thousand checks, and I'm surprised actually how far down we've gotten, because I would expect some of these are anomalies that inadvertently got added to our lifeguards and stuff. The PP module, essentially you can go in here too now as an admin, as a gear list. If I want to look up my by person, I can do that. I can now go in here and find their gear. If I want to do it by type, I can add in here that I just want to look at their structure pants, and that'll just bring up their structure pants. And then I can go in here and I can assign it to someone else, or even make it unassigned. I can set alert that something needs to be done. I can log an event such as a repair, a cleaning, any type of these things. You get to customize what those are. We haven't done a lot with that yet. And then I can retire it. I can't delete it. That's something that only PSTrax can do, but that's because you don't want to lose your data anyway. So you retire, it goes into this a different status, and it goes whatever. I can schedule it to be due something. So I can say, well, I'm gonna go tell everybody with structure pants that are out for repair to give me a status, right? And if I get rid of their name, let's see, just out of curiosity, we don't have any like that. But anything that might be shown as inactive, I want to find. All right, I got a bunch of inactive, and I can change their status, or I can do a search for them. I can also do anything by serial number. So if I want to just look for the serial number, it's going to just by starting to type that up, it'll bring up and bring me the structure code that has that in its serial number. It'll look in serial number and ID number in any of these fields. So their search engine's gotten very a lot stronger in the year we've been working with them. That's gear list. Full schedule is going to show you what is due for everybody. We have a very different look at a full schedule because we are so big. But then again, if I just want to look at that for 729 at any one point, where is that at? I'm going to do a search by, and you can do that with multiple numbers here, by the way. It's going to bring me anything up that has 729 in its serial number. And then if I like, oh, well, I got too many here. Let's see, anything that's 2279, and there's brings me down to it, right? So hoods we're not tracking by ID number, by the way. The fact that this is in here is just an anomaly. It got entered. There are some things we're treating as trackable assets, just like when we talk about the assets. And then we treat some things like inventory. Hoods are inventory as far as we're concerned now, just with some of our experience. So, for sake of time, SCBA's works a lot of the same way. You got the gear list. You can look up all of your masks. Okay, and now we have a lot of stuff. So if I want to look up all the packs, oh yeah, this is new for here. I can look up all my packs. And then if I want to gear them down to, I can anytime, this is the other part that you can look for a serial number. If you type it in any one of these little search windows, it'll bring it up. Packs and SCBA's work very similarly. You can do log events, set alerts, edit it, assign it, change its status, retire, delete, all the same different things that you can do with PPE. We are using this to only check once a month. Again, you can do a daily check. We actually had, going in our settings, we had events. This is a list of, this is some admin stuff. This is what we could do with SCBA. So we had a daily check built, but again, we got pushed back from our local that, hey, they're doing this anyways. Why do we have to document it? Well, okay, I won't even go there, but that is, so we're doing full inspections instead. And then there's fit tests, mass, and then there's air fills that we have built at the station that have air fills. So we check, per NFPA standards, you're supposed to log an air fill every time you have a bottle. So when you log an air fill, this screen will come up. This is actually new. I haven't done this in a while. And I think ours are so big that it just takes a little bit longer. And they're working on some of this too, but they've improved their speed on a lot of items just by, but if I pull this up, I click here, I can log an air fill, and then I put in the PSI, and then I log my air fills everywhere. This gives me the opportunity then to go look at my logs and reports. I want to look at a log, an airfill report, and I can get a full report on what airfills have been logged. I don't think our compliance is real great with this yet because we haven't been hitting them hard on it. And then, but you know, here's all the airfills that we've had happening. So that's actually pretty impressive. Full schedule thing applies here. One thing that's a little unique with this whole process is anything that you do in the SCBA module is linked to these checks here. Well, when you're looking at a check, let me go back. I need to change back to a template. Those schedules and everything that are in this module here, so when you're looking at schedules and all that other stuff, it's not the same thing that you'll have under the engine. Because when you have this check with SCBAs in here, let me get down to it. When you build this check and you're editing this, this is where, actually it's going to be at this level. This is where you check that it's an SCBA. That's how it links to the SCBA module and links it to the actual tool. The full schedule that's in here, for example, if I want to look at everything that's doing SCBAs, does not include those checks that are placed on an apparatus. It's stuff that's placed on the BA itself specifically. The same thing applies to the logs and reports. It has to do specific to the checks and the logs that are done on the unit, but it isn't going to give you a log of what checks were done. It will show you if they sent an alert, but it's not going to show you the same thing as the logs for those SCBA checks in there. It's not been an issue, but it's just something to be aware of. Okay, assets. Assets is new, is one of the newer modules, and I want to differentiate assets from inventory because they are working on inventory and we're going to be rolling that out. We had the narcotic module under contract, but we switched over to the inventory because we're in the middle of an ambulance provider change, and that might get tied to that. So we are not using the narcotics. We actually were working on that first, and then we backed off on that. Assets work just a lot. They work very similar to these other ones. You have an asset list. What we are tracking so far, as I can tell you that we're doing our hose in here, and this was the largest one, and I'm actually pleasantly surprised to see that we've had 2,600 items of hose now entered into the system, and we will start doing our annual hose test via PSTrax starting in January. We are also tracking all of our HERS tools. Actually, I should just show you here, assets, asset types. This is the assets that we are tracking and building up. We've even added NOx keys into this so we can track our NOx keys. Who has what? One of the things that has been really beneficial to this is the history that you have with an asset, because an asset will travel. So if, actually, let me go to assets home. This is kind of cool because they just rolled out a lot of new stuff here. So right now, this is showing what's due on some assets. So on engine one, they're confirming, you're going to say present or present, this Motorola radio. I'm going to log it, confirm the serial number. That's the only check we have on it. And we're going to log it. We haven't really implemented the front end part of assets yet. Everything we're doing right now is the back end. The asset list is where people are entering their hose. This is where somebody would go in and they wanted to look at everything that is on a specific rig. So assign to, and we'll pull up frontline engine 20. That actually happens to be our hose testing. This is the hose list that's on engine 20. If there is a change, they can now go in here and they can assign it and say they're going to assign it to, I have to see where, I actually don't know what process they're using. I did find someone who's stellar in operating this side of it. They would assign, they can go assign it to a location. So they can now go assign this piece of hose to station 20's cache, hose cache list, building 20, because that's where we store our hose. And they can move it on there, and then at the same time, I'm going to hit cancel that. they can go and look at the stuff that is assigned to the training cache or wherever and move it into that rig so that that hose list is accurate. Hoses going forward, we're doing the same thing right now with chainsaws, rescue saws. We have a small engine repair shop that is actually at Fire Station 23. So crews bring in a piece of asset and they drop it off at our equipment manager office. At that point, we assign them a new one that's in service. We place that one out of service, and it's sitting there out of service. And then once a week, the station comes up, picks it up, transfers it to themselves, does the repair, and moves it back when they've done their part. I haven't used a lot of the front end side of it, but the same thing applies with logs, reports, alerts. A good example, I wanted to show you a thermal imager. We had a thermal imager, just to give you an example, and I don't know if I can find any here that has details, but we'll say this one because it's sitting at a cache. If I click on the details, and this, by the way, applies to any one of the modules. You click on the details, and that's where you're going to get there. More history is timing out. Here we go. There's been no history on this one. Actually, there probably has. If I change this. On this thermal imager, it should show that it'll show the history of what's in it. So it was sent out for repair. That's the only thing that's on here. If I go back, let's see if I can find another one. Use the last. Let me do this last log date, because if I do it this way, I'll probably find stuff that's been moved around a little bit more. So this one here, and if you notice that you can click on any of these to sort your data. If I go in the details here, it's going to pull up some history. I'll look back and see what I can find here as far as some history with this one. Okay, so here's some history on this. It's showing you it was sent out for repair, set to repair vendor, cracked lens, set as active, repair recorded, and then assigned to 9s. We had a case here where we had a child fatality in a car. So somebody left them in the car, and somebody used the thermal imager to check the temperature of the car. Well, as you can imagine, the legal ramifications of that, 3 months later, they're asking, where's that thermal imager? We need to see that thermal imager. Well, we had no idea because this happened before we were using PSTrax. Now we'd be able to track that down and see where who had that what thermal imager did that unit have on that day, and what is its history. I think at this point I want to give it a break and take a look at maybe the questions and turn it back over to Ryan and see if there's anything else you want me to show, Ryan. Oh, I guess one last thing I'll show you though is just for this. This is all the forms that we've replaced. So this has all been replaced by PSTrax for us. And then we started, there were forms that were the forms that you use to check that you did your form kind of thing. So these are forms that just went away because it already is tracked. So like a delayed action discrepancy, well, those are alerts. So it wasn't a form that we needed to even have anymore. Equipment transfer record, well, that's not something we need to do because it's done in PSTrax when you assign it and change the status, that kind of stuff. So these are all the forms that we replaced so far and are continuing to work towards. At that point, I'll take a stop here and see where we're at.
Yeah, thanks, Chief. Hey, I was curious, do you guys use the expiration date reports at all right now, like for your budgeting and planning? Have you started using those on the equipment side?
Only on the PPE side.
Okay.
So we're only tracking 10 years on our jackets and coats. I mean, our coats and our pants, and a very few small items right now.
Okay. Yeah, very cool. Well, thanks a lot, Chief, for taking us through that. You know, I'm happy you had an opportunity to show off your system, because I know you've put a ton of work into it. You know, you and Nathan and your team building it out. And so it's pretty cool to see all the different functions and everything that you've built into yours. So thanks for taking us through it.
No problem.
And for the folks on the phone, just so you know, especially if you're on paper right now, we kind of always recommend a crawl, walk, run philosophy. And I'd say Chief Nilsen, he's in the run category. He's got the program off the ground and they're flying with it. But we can start as simple as you'd like. So if you want to just start basic, and then you can add things over time, and then hopefully get up to a point where kind of Chief Nilsen was showing with their system, we can certainly do that.